So what I wanted to do with this video is I actually wanted to do some review of circles and to talk a bit about circles, and hopefully to help you kind of think about some of the different problems that you can get with circles and give you the basic foundation. So we're going to take a look at this particular problem. Write an equation of a circle centered at 0, -7 that passes through 18, 6. Now, what I want to do first is I'm going to first define that we're going to have um, the general form of a circle, which is going to be x minus h squared plus y minus k squared equals r squared. Um, X and y are values on the Cartesian plane. HK is the center of the circle. And r is the radius of the circle. Okay? And what this tells us is basically, and we should know this kind of from geometry, is that all I really need to know in order to find the equation of a circle is the center of the circle and the radius. So the first part here, 0, -7, that is the center. And so the next part that I need here is I need what the radius is going to be. If they gave you the radius, you just plug it into r, and you'd end up with your equation. But this one says, okay, it passes through 18, 6. Okay? All right. So what does that look like? Well, that means that basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that equation. So I'm going to have x, right, minus 0 squared plus y minus a -7 squared is going to equal r squared. And I'm going to use that because passing through 18,6 actually means it's a solution to this equation. So all I need to do now is I'm just going to plug it in. So it's going to be 18 minus 0 squared plus 6 minus -7 squared, okay? And that's going to be 18 squared plus 13 squared, okay? And we'll just utilize our calculator in order to work with that. Squared. All right. And that equals 493. Well, that actually, it turns out I don't need to do anything with 493. I'm just going to have x minus 0 squared plus y minus a -7 squared equals 493. Okay? Or x squared plus y plus 7 squared equals 493. From this, I can tell, right, if I have just an x squared and I have this y plus 7, I can tell that center, again, that's 0, -7, okay, because they're in the correct places. And r, my radius, is going to be the square root of 493. Okay? All right. What if we are told, we are given 2 points that are on the circle? Well, if we're given 2 points on the circle, okay, and we know they form a diameter. Okay, so that's the other piece that we're going to need. They form a diameter. What do we do with it? Okay, what do we do with that? Well, a couple of things that we know here. One is we're going to continue to have the same equation of the circle. So we're still going to have x minus h squared plus y minus k squared equals r squared. So that's the first thing. And then the second thing is that we are also going to know, okay, that the diameter goes through the center as its midpoint. Okay, so the midpoint of the diameter is going to be the center of the circle. And 1/2 the diameter is equal to the radius. Okay, so that's just kind of standard from your remembering from geometry, right? So we can utilize all that information. So let's say, for example, we have a diameter at 2, -2, and conversely, we'll have one at -4, 4. Okay? All right. So the first thing that we want to know is, where is the center of the circle? Because that's the first thing we need. Well, I know it's a diameter, and since I know it's a diameter, I know that the midpoint of the diameter is going to be the center of the circle. So all I need to do is use the midpoint formula. And so that's going to give me 2 plus -4 over 2. It's going to be my x term. And my y term is going to be -2 plus 4 over 2. And so that's going to end up equaling -2 over 2, comma, 2 over 2, which equals -1, 1. Great, so there's the center of my circle, all right? There's HK. Next up, I need that radius. So what I'm going to use is I'm going to use the distance formula. So D is going to equal 2 minus -4 squared plus -2 minus 4 squared, okay? And if you remember the distance formula, I'll just like rewrite it for you. It's going to equal x2 minus x1, or the other way around, it doesn't really matter, squared, plus y2 minus y1 squared, okay? And so this is then going to be 6 squared plus 6 squared, which equals the square root of 72. And so that's my diameter, okay? So that's my diameter, D. So my radius is going to equal the square root of 72 divided by 2. Because the diameter, because the radius, excuse me, is half the diameter. Now all I need to do is plug that back into my equation for the circle. So I'm going to get x, right, minus -1 squared plus y minus 1 squared equals the square root of 72 over 2 squared, right? And so that's going to give me, when I simplify, it's going to give me x plus 1 squared plus y minus 1 squared equals 72 over 4, right? Which is the equivalent of 23. Cool. And so that's my equation of my circle. All right, so just to briefly recall a couple of things. One, the equation of the circle here is x minus h plus y minus k squared equals r squared. Very similar to a lot of the other ones, except in this case, the x and the y terms are both squared in this case. Okay. Next, hk is the center of the circle, r is the radius of the circle. So anytime you're actually trying to find the equation of a circle, you're always trying to solve for the center of the circle and the radius. Sometimes you're given the center, sometimes you're given the radius, sometimes you're given both, sometimes you're going to have to use some geometric knowledge in order to find both. So that completes this particular